My name is Donna Cash. Man, it was many moons ago. I was in Montgomery, Alabama, and I've always been a person of curiosity. And I'd heard the word yoga, but didn't necessarily know what it meant. And there was a hot yoga studio there in Montgomery, and I thought, go. Just because I needed something to experience more than anything. Mm-hmm. And so I went into the yoga studio, and from the moment that I did hot yoga, I was hooked. Yeah. I love the heat. I love the movement. I love the stretch that I felt. So that's how I found it. Not one. Especially in Montgomery, Alabama, there wasn't one, which was interesting because I frequently choose activities that challenge that for me. I think part of this has always been, how do I infiltrate spaces that typically haven't been exposed to me or given to me as an opportunity. And so that was it. It was cool that, I was in that space, but it also reminded me of high school. So I went to a majority white high school, and so it wasn't a discomfort. And so unfortunately it felt normal. It did. So being the only Black woman in the space did become a part of the challenge. Being a Black woman who did not do dance or gymnastics and none of the flexibility that exists in what I saw in the bodies around me gave me more pause around, can I do this? Is this something that exists for me? Because I don't fit. That was really hard, being the only person who looked like me and not feeling like I had the abilities of the people around me, fed into the mindset of, it's one more thing that I don't have because I am Black. And I think there is love in the practice. There is spirit in the practice, and being a person of spirituality with Christian values who grew up in church, there were things that I felt connected to spiritually through different teachers and instructors who kind of tapped into that side of me that said, man, this is also somewhere you need to be. So it very much pulled me in through the postures and the alignment of the posture with the thoughts and the spirit and the energy that I felt in the space. I love that question. I think, as I've done my growth in this practice, that's always been a question for me. And so I chose to kind of study it a little bit to see, is this an alignment or is this a complete divergence? And I found that there's a lot of alignment, that it was exactly a path that you take, a journey that you walk, a communication that you have with something that you don't know, that you can't see, but you can feel and you can hold on to. And so for me, my Christianity and my yoga practice are very intertwined and connected. I at the end of a practice, there's many times that I may sing, count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings, See what God has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God has done. Because it is the gratitude and the gratefulness and the soul that I have as a Christian that gives me the space to show up in my yoga practice. And every person in there is connected to this soul that exists. So I can't separate the two. There are pieces that I know that may challenge or may not feel like the traditional experience of church. However, there is so much alignment in our sutras and this walk. There's a if you believe we go into hell, we are walking there in all kind of faith.
I'll see you there.
I see you, because they can't be separated. For me, they can't be separated. So I hope that people find their way to the journey. It's grown quite significantly. I did my first yoga certification back in about 2017. Mm-hmm. Again, it was about me infiltrating a space that I didn't feel like I belonged in, but I needed to understand a little bit more because there was moments on the mat that I was so drawn to myself, to my heart, that it brought tears to my eyes. Mm-hmm. And so I needed to know more. And so in that 200-hour experience, there was such a breakdown of my person that I was not ready for at all. I surely was not ready for the breakdown that happened in my 200-hour experience. And so that is where it started, to change my walk with myself. And so from there, the practice then began to grow. My movement, my ability to use my breath in a way to literally open up space in my body, in my soul, in my mind, is where I found the most growth with my practice. So both of my 200-hour and 300-hour, I have been certified through the River Yoga here in Denver. The River Yoga was one of the first studios I found when I got to Denver. It was close proximity to where I was working, which was at the time Denver Public Schools. The office that I was located was on Fox, and this small studio was located on Delaware, which was maybe a block and a half away. Yeah. So the first 200-hour, there was two other women of color, one biracial, black parent, white parent, and a Native woman, which was nice to see. I was the oldest, which was always interesting. At the time, I was already 45, getting my certification. And it was it was eye-opening. So much work that I had to do. Personally, I've always been a thicker woman. And so those were all the pieces that were challenging for me. But in an experience with the young girls that were there was also a Brazilian woman. And so I did have some experiences where I had to get some folks in order around language that they chose to use. But besides that, I think there was a real attempt to be inclusive and thoughtful about creating a community of the women that were in that cohort. I think it's always a work in progress. I don't know if if accomplish will ever be a part of it or achieve, right? I think when you are a white-led organization, you struggle to figure it out just because it is not your experience. I think the intentionality is authentic. I believe that the awareness is a process of growth, and so yeah, they're still attempting. They won't reach, right, and I think acceptance of that is the work. And once you can accept that, then it feels different. It feels different when you know you are still in a stage of attempting and that you give yourself the grace, but you also are intentional about making sure that you pull the right people into the space, that you hear their voices, that you support them, that you uplift them is a part of it. So I think they will always be in that stage. I don't know if achieve is the opportunity. I don't know if it exists. The alignment for me with social justice and yoga is the need to be righteous in how you show up on your mat and in person with others. And so there's a real connection for me with social justice in that you're going to stand, you're going to have a foundation, you're going to breathe, you're going to take something in and you're going to give something. And to me, that is what this need to be so justice socially or have social awareness is it's a part of the yoga experience. So when you step on your mat, there is a very personal experience that you have, but that you share with the others in your space. And I think that is how we are only going to come to righteousness in our justice walk. That you are a very personal individual who has to have a shared experience with others, regardless of who they are. I do think there's a challenge in the Black experience that there is traumas that are in my mental Rolodex that occasionally I hold it and I almost stop myself because I'm like, oh, they may not be able to understand that, or somebody's going to feel a certain way about it because it's a little too Black, right? As we go into Juneteenth, even, I'm thinking about teaching and how Black is my class going to get. Um, I but because of yoga, I really do feel an acceptance of myself, and the chasm, if it exists, I have to let them deal with that. The misunderstanding, if it exists, I have to let them deal with that. Conversations are different, difficult. People don't necessarily see me. I think I've had the experience of, sitting behind the counter, getting ready to start the class, and it's oh, you're the yoga instructor? Yeah, I'm the yoga instructor. And I think there's an element because my class is going to come with a very R&B, hip hop feel in some instances, depending on my day. And I think for people to understand the connection of the rhythm to yoga, there are challenges for certain people when they experience my yoga class. I do have clients who are regulars who come on purpose because they are so engaged and moved by the experience they have with me. I think I love I love the authenticity. I love the essence of who I am. I'm also super grown, right?
I'm grown. And so I get to be my authentic self and not apologize for that. So I think there is a nuance for me. I think about if I had gained this practice in my 20s, what would this look like? And I don't know. I just don't know. But being closer on the other side, I definitely, I try to find joy, right? I don't have to, and I'm a part-time teacher. I'm not there all the time. So the essence of the depth of the challenges that might exist, I don't necessarily get them all. I think, like you said, the conditioning of Blackness, which is something that we have to constantly work on, right? We still have to work through our conditioning. So I am still conditioned. There's some concentration of the conditioning that I have to dilute, that I'm working through. And so I almost choose to stay in a white space to force myself to dilute the conditioning that causes me to occasionally deny myself. And that's the yoga. That's the yoga, because the yoga allows me to see you and not believe that you are feeding the conditioning that I am holding. Because maybe you said, oh, you're the yoga teacher, because I didn't say nothing. I didn't say hi. You just walked up to the desk and I was busy and you're like, oh, you're the yoga teacher. Maybe that was my conditioning and not your experience. Maybe. And that's where yoga has tapped me differently. And that's what I want for me, with you. I want you to walk up and see me, period. That's why I chose Salubana. Because it is about you seeing me. It's about me seeing you. It is about knowing that the village sees you. I actually have a symbol, and she's not around, but I have a unicorn ducky that I named Grace. And Grace is a physical representation of my belief of the necessity of it for myself, for others, and my Christian belief that grace is sufficient. And so I bring grace into the space often, and I share that. And if you need grace, you can hold on to grace. And if you don't, you leave her with me, because I hold it deeply. And so that is where, if ever I find myself creating space for others, it's only through grace. I want them to know it's a healing place, that there is healing and growth and joy and awareness and education within yoga. And actually, maybe the yoga is just you, but that it exists, and that that yoga can be a pathway. I keep saying it's yoga, but actually it's you, and you can find it through some things in yoga. Mm-hmm. So it's in you. I hope you know it. But that yoga can be a pathway to take you deeper into you. My yoga is joy. My yoga is my smile. My yoga is the arms of my mother wrapped around me, because I don't see her face every day. My yoga is every breath that I take. My yoga is a journey. My yoga is a forward fold that don't fold. My yoga is a foundation for love. My yoga gives my heart to you.
It makes it open to receive. That's amazing.